What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. I am going to update you guys a little bit on my book list, and I wanted to film this at an angle to showcase a beautiful custom bookcase my husband built me, and it is awesome. There's actually a desk right there, but I didn't want to really show it because I'm working and it's messy. But I have my own beautiful library, and he worked his fingers to the bone building this. He built this special big box here because he gets me flowers all the time. So that's my flower box, and that's why I have this little like flower doily. But yeah, ladies, get you a man that builds you things, I promise. He matched the stain to all the accents of our home, and it's beautiful. It's my favorite room to be in. I have this really big Bible study chair. It's like a comfy Bible study chair, and then of course I need to fill out the room a little bit more, but that's basically. And then I got a beautiful view of our land and our pond and stuff like that. Kind of hard to see because I have it on a tripod. Anyway, I am overdue on updating you guys on a bunch of books. One of the biggest problems today that I think teachers contribute to is not teaching someone how to learn, how to acquire the learning skills, but rather to absorb what you're telling them. So I like to offer books with different authors or books that go against each other so you can see as the reader the different biases, and you should be able to dissect truth from that. So usually if you're wondering if someone's lying, you want to know their story, and then there's the truth. So there's always three sides to every story, not two. Some people say there's two sides to a pancake, your version of the story and mine. However, you can typically decipher what is truth by reading multiple sources, things like this. So I really find it a great source to list different writers to look for, different authors, different scholars, because they're lost in time and you can't find it anywhere. And this is over years of me studying these things and finding these people that no one's heard of or studied under. So without further ado, I'd like to start talking about books. Now, some of these are not just religious books, meaning they're not just biblical books to kind of help your studies. They also offer great insight on life, and of course you can link them to the Bible very easily. So I'm gonna probably pull up a chair, switch the camera angle, and bring some books out. Let's begin with one of the most recent ones. I'm trying to remember all the books that I collected and have been reading over the time that I haven't been active on this channel, so forgive me if I forget one. Some of the books that I do mention, I'm actually going to do a separate video entirely on them because there's so much to talk about, so much to relate to the world of today on my investigative journalism side, and so much to relate to the Bible, and then combining them together, your mind gets blown. So I want to talk about one of the most recent ones that I found on me and Justin. We just came back from our honeymoon, and when we drove, there was a big sign that said Bible sale, like a giant billboard, and Justin was laughing because he said that I'm the only person who would get excited and pull off the road for that. And I was talking to one of my girlfriends, and she was saying that that's considered, the area that I was in was considered like the Bible Belt, which I never heard of, but really interesting stuff. So anyway, the sign was a lie. There wasn't a sale, and there wasn't really many religious books at all, but I did finally get, and I don't know how I lived without this or never recommended it, but I did get this, and it's the Thompson Chain Reference Bible for the King James Version. This is absolutely 100% required in your study. It's so easy to use and to study different words and where those words are used, and then the Strong's number or the Thompson reference number, and so many different references in here for different topics, just different singular words where that word is used, different meanings. It's fantastic. I love this. I took the dust cover off because dust covers make me upset. But Thompson Chain Reference Bible for the King James Version. I bought another set of books. So you guys know that I love my Encyclopedia of Ecclesiastical, Theological, and Biblical Literature. So that's these. I've talked about them many times. I did a whole unboxing video of them. I have two more book sets that I have my eye on, but they're so expensive. So I'm just trying to wait until I get through some of these. An author, a theologian, a scholar that I came across was Emanuel Swedenborg. Some of you may have heard of him. Some of the things that he was saying on these online forums was impressively on point. Then, after reading some of his bibliographies and things like that, he was very wackadoo. First of all, one of the things we have to keep in mind when reading and having, you know, these different authors and people we like is to not idolize them into thinking that everything that they did was correct, or because they got this wrong then everything else is correct. For example, Martin Luther, his writings, his theological works, etc., are phenomenal. But I also think Martin Luther was a little strange in some of the things that he said in his commentaries and what things meant. And where Lutheranism has gone today is nothing even close to Luther's writings. But in that regard, is he was off on a lot of different things. He took some things very, very literal, and then he took some things very correct. But he wasn't, you know, all together. But I still value his writings for what he is correct on. You would be asking, Mary, can you give me an example of what Luther was wrong on? Well, for example, when we talk about, and I've done a video on this separately, and you guys can look it up. I believe it was about communion. I think it's titled Communion. Is Communion Biblical? That's the title of the video, and it's talking about Luther taking the literal verse of, for my blood is drink indeed, and my flesh is meat indeed, that Bible verse. And we talked about how that's actually not what it's translated. It's not translated correctly, but anyway, Luther took that very literal. So he's saying, and Lutheranism believes, that you are actually participating in eating his flesh and drinking his blood, and you actually feel that he is currently present with you. Like right now, right here, you're eating his flesh, you're drinking his blood. And that's just not the case. And Luther argues that it is. And then many theologians and scholars have come back at Luther for that and said, you know, for being such a smart guy, he just missed it on this one, because Jesus also says in scripture, well, I am the door. But we're not worshiping the door, or I am the way, or the life, or, you know, he says that he is these things, but we're not thinking, I'm not walking under every door frame, or, you know, going into every door and thinking that Jesus is the door. Do you know what I mean? It's very metaphorical, it's very symbolic. So I value a lot of Luther's works, but at the same time, some authors miss it. Emanuel Swedenborg is like this. He is fantastic. He has taught me so many things. I couldn't recommend him enough. But some of the things that he talks about is like talking to angels and spirits, and he honestly reminds me a lot of Joseph Smith, to be quite honest with you. He kind of veered that direction, and then he got a little haughty and basically said that he's the only one that God trusted to bring this knowledge of God to the world. And Joseph Smith, you know, is like that. Many cult leaders are like that, but it reminded me of that. So I'm like, ew, I don't want to deal with that. However, his works, this set of books, for the most part, phenomenal. Highly recommend. I'll tell you what I got. I got a few. I got The True Christian Religion by Swedenborg. And it looks like this. Okay. And then I got the entire set. There's, I don't know how many volumes. I think 12 volumes. I'll find it out. I'll find out for you guys. But it's Arcana Celestia. And that's what it's called, and it's a whole set back here. So I believe it's a 12 volume set. I got the entire set. I think it's fantastic. I do recommend it. It's for meat eaters, okay? So you have to be pretty versed in scripture, and you have to be pretty versed in reading well. And what I mean by reading well is knowing how to navigate through things like that to make sure that you don't go astray either. I say that with a bit of caution with everything you read. However, some of the other books that I got is the 2 creation stories in Genesis. This book I mean, do you guys see? This is by a guy, James Forrester Brown. I looked him up and I wanted to see if he wrote anything else. His work is fantastic. The sources he listed for this are fantastic. I couldn't recommend it enough. So it was a very, very interesting read. I have a lot to say about it. Highly recommend this book. I got this book. It's the Chaldean Accounts of Genesis. I'm doing a Genesis study for you guys, and it has been I mean, I'm studying now for over like 6 months just on, I don't know, I think the first 2 chapters of Genesis, and that's it. And studying the different accounts of how similar different religions had texts that were very similar to the Bible but different. And I think one of the biggest differences in the Bible in regards to other cultures is that the Bible doesn't deify other objects. There is only one God in the Bible, whereas the different accounts, the Babylonian, Assyrian, Chaldean, you know, Mesopotamian, all these other Grecian accounts are constantly deifying other entities, beings, objects, etc. But it's very interesting, and it's something that I need to work on for studying. This book I'll talk about at a different time. That's the dust cover, but the book is over in another room. The Shadow of the Cross. It's a great, very small read, all about self-denial. Highly recommend this book. It's very easy to put in your purse if you're a girl. It's very easy to throw in your truck if you're a man. It's just very easy to carry with you, and everyone needs a reminder every day on self-denial, because of course that's like one of the biggest, or the biggest, if you will, subjects about the entire gospel, and no one talks about it, is denying self-denial. The Doctrine of Repentance is another very simple, easy read, and it reminds me of the books that I recommended before, called All Things for Good. Here it is. Wow, I'm surprised how quickly I found that. Just not that one. This one. All Things for Good. Anything like Puritan paperbacks I really do like. This one is fantastic, especially if you're going through something tough. I would recommend reading this, or recommend a friend, a brother, a sister to read this book. I think it'll help them with their whatever they're going through in life that's kind of tough and kind of sucks, and God is laying hands on them to teach them something. It's by Thomas Watson. I just ordered this book. It just came in the mail yesterday. I'm so excited. I don't think it actually drops until October 6th. So if I wanted to buy it, I think on Thrift Books, it doesn't even drop till October 6th. So it's very new, and I'm so excited. It's called Determined. He came out with a very popular book that I never heard of, called Behave. But this is a science of life without free will. And I thought this would be fantastic, because you guys know that I don't believe in free will, simply because it is a biblical truth that people seem to have a problem with. When I saw this book, I saw the exact opposite, and I saw a book written on free will and the science of basically having this agency. And I'm going to order that too. I'm just trying to be very frugal. You guys know I like to save my money and be frugal and stuff, and I just couldn't find it for a price that I wanted to buy it for yet. So of course I'm gonna read the thing I want to read first, and then I'm going to read the opposite to see if there's truths in it, to see, you know, can I be corrected? Is this, really the real deal? And, every day I'm learning. I'm trying to always read the opposite of what I believe, and always listen to a person opposite of what you believe in, because you never know where that growth may occur. Am I saying I'm wrong and don't believe what I'm saying? Absolutely not. But if you're going to stand for something, you want to know why these other people are standing for something completely different. It helps bring understanding. It helps bring yourself understanding. I read things that I disagree with all the time to make sure that I'm on point, to make sure that I'm correct, and not just, emotionally determining these things, essentially. So does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Very excited to read this. Haven't even started it. I don't even know if I should recommend it yet, but I thought it would be really interesting, and maybe you guys will like it as well. Okay, I had some more that I had to grab. The one that I read while on my honeymoon was fantastic. I definitely recommend it. This is one of the books that I will be doing a separate video on. It is called The Coddling of the American Mind. It's very new. It just recently came out. How good intentions and bad ideas are setting up a generation for failure. I have so much to say about this. I highly recommend this book right here. We're gonna do a whole separate video on the details of this book. And what's really, really cool is it talks about something that I talked about many times before using this book. You guys know I've talked about this book. One of you guys actually sent me this book. It's called Kingdom of the Cults. And in the beginning of this book, it talks about semantic deception. And semantic deception being how words change over time. And I've talked about this a lot, which is why I recommend looking up definitions in actual dictionaries, looking up definitions in an 1828 dictionary specifically, which is another new book recommendation that I have to show you guys that one of my subscribers in the Obasi Posse sent me as well. Thank you so much, Lisa. And this talks about the same thing with semantic deception, except they call it concept creeping, which is a fantastic word to describe that as well. And it's essentially saying how, like, one of the examples they use in this book is about how safety used to mean physical safety. Now it concept creeped into meaning emotional and mental safety, and how that is coddling people to be like weak cupcakes essentially and destroying our future generations. But we're gonna get into that in another video, so recommend that one for sure. So since we're on the subject of the 1828 dictionary, I haven't even opened it just because my subscriber sent it to me, who is now such a beautiful friend, and me and Justin, we call her our grandma from another state. She's just so awesome. But she sent this to me with her handprints and like little you know, writings on it. It's been really hard for me to open it and get rid of it, so I haven't touched it because it's just very special to me. But I recommend you guys getting an 1828 dictionary, and you'll see how definitions change. And I talk about that all the time. If you want to understand the Bible, the words of the Bible and what things meant, you have to understand the culture, because of course it's the socialization and the culture that truly comes up with the definition of a word. Furthering my Genesis study, I heard of a somewhat newer scholar, Peter Enns, and it's called The Evolution of Adam, What the Bible Does and Doesn't Say About Human Origins. And it's proved to be very interesting. I think it's well written. I think he's a pretty smart man, and I know that he has a book on Genesis that I've been wanting to get. I think it's called Genesis for Simple People, or An Easy Way to Understand Genesis. I don't know, but I'll find a picture of it and link it, because I am going to purchase that one as well. But I do like him. I think he's decent, so I do recommend his work. I was at a thrift store the other day. When I'm at a thrift or antique store, I always look at the books, and I always look for old ones, and I never find stuff on religion. But I found 2 books this time. They're really old, and one is the Bible Dictionary, Teacher's Edition, by W.M. Smith, and I love these things. It just brings so much insight in my studies. They're great sources, and it looks like this. So I value these things. I bought it instantly. I think it was $8, which was a good deal. Then I found this one, which I'm so excited because I plan on doing a Christmas study. Really sit myself down and study more about Christmas. There's more I want to learn about it. As you know, it's illegal in the United States about like 100 years ago. This book is pretty old. It says How Christmas Came to the Sunday Schools. And I thought it's really interesting. And this was written in 1934. So I think this will prove to be very interesting and a great source for videos that I plan to put out in the future. Hopefully I can get that out by Christmas, but the way these other studies are going, I'm constantly going down different rabbit holes. So, okay, another study I've been working on while I've been gone is a women's study. Not a study for women, but a study about women and who they were in history, who they were biblically, stuff like that. I get a lot of hate for being a woman talking about God, but I'm very passionate about that. What I've been doing is I've been doing a bunch of studies, and then I make the notes and I compile these studies every time. I don't think someone can give you really good, deep, meat truth by saying, I'm going to study this topic and I'm going to study it right now for an hour, 2 hours, or even a week, and come out with it. I compile things over a long period of time, because as I'm reading about this topic or this topic, it takes me somewhere else, and then I learn something about this, and it just happens over time when God decides to give it to me. So I have a study that's going on about virgins, what it meant to be a virgin in the Bible. I have a study about marriage, women in history, women in the Bible, marriage, stuff like that. So I've got all these books on it, different ones. I got Marriage, A History, How Love Conquered Marriage, just reading about our history for marriage. It's not biblical, but there is marriage in ancient society, Christian marriage, stuff like this, how marriage changed. Got that book. I got a book on a history of the wife. This book is so interesting. Reading books like these, because you don't think about it. You don't think, well, what was a wife then? because it could be, again, concept creeping, semantic deception. It could be something completely different than what we term wife right now in this age, you know? And you are shocked when I start reading topics on the most basic of words. I am taught how ignorant I am. These books are fascinating. We don't know this information as a populace. We don't teach it. I mean, we're not taught these things. So really, really interesting book regardless. History of the Wife by Marilyn Yallen. I have this one, The First 20,000 Years of Women's Work by Elizabeth Wayland Barber. It looks like that. Really interesting. I get a lot of comments about, you know, from women and men. Mary, are you really supposed to teach? Mary, are you supposed to work? Mary, are you supposed to be in the house? Well, what do I do to represent, you know, this biblical marriage, this and that, and whatever? What does the Bible say? Can I get a divorce? There's so many questions, and I feel like women are sold short on it. I think men are sold short on it. I think us as a church is sold incredibly short on it, and I think we follow tradition and what we think is right, and there's so much more to it, and I want to offer you guys something that is very in-depth, because everyone's life situation, dynamic, marriage is completely different from the next person in line. So we can't come and say, no, this is right and this is black and white and this is this and this is that. There's so much depth and things that we need to understand and grow together in. So I want to offer something like that on the channel. That's coming, but it's certainly not time yet. But stay on the lookout. And then of course I got this book, and it's called Virgin by Hayne Blank. I read about half of it and then I put it down and got onto something else. But so far, very interesting. The concept of virginity and how the term virgin changed and what it used to mean and doesn't mean what it means today. It's fascinating stuff, guys. Very fascinating. So got that book as well. Then I got this book, The Nourishing Traditions, Book of Baby and Child Care. And I talked about her book, Sally Fallon Morrill, and Thomas Cowan. I have the other book that they wrote. This is for children or mothers to be or something like this. But I have the regular cookbook, and it's phenomenal. It's so great. I talked about it in my other videos, and it talks just about vitamins and just everything under the sun and diet dictocrats and all these things. And it's just, I love her first book. So I haven't read this, but I bought it because I saw it on sale. So I haven't read this yet, but I know for a fact that I recommend them 100% because I have the original and I've recommended it before. I know you guys are gonna ask what it is, so I'm gonna go grab it. 1 second. So this is the book I was talking about, the original one. It's the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and the diet dictocrats. It's called Nourishing Traditions. It looks like this. And I've talked about that book before. I love this book. While I was away for like a year on this channel, I have learned so much stuff about cooking. You guys know that when I first got censored for investigative journalism, I used to leak information in my cooking videos and would show you how to cook something. I love cooking. I love cooking from scratch specifically. Like, I'm the type of person to get incredibly annoyed by a recipe that includes boxed cake mix. I think it's absurd. I think we've gotten very lazy. I know a lot of women, will get offended by that comment because they'll be like, I use boxed cake mix. It's fine. Do what you want to do. I don't do it. I don't like it. I think it's lazy and I think it's bad for you. So I like cooking a lot of things from scratch. I make sourdough all the time. I'm one of those. So either way, I got 2 other cookbooks. I'm learning to, someone recommended this to me. I haven't read it. It is Timeless Preserves, Amish Canning Recipes for Every Home. I'm learning to can, but I'm also learning old fermentation ways of preserving food. So I'm on that train as well. I can't say if I should recommend this or not. If you guys have read this, let me know. And then I got this other cookbook, which is phenomenal. I really, really love cooking. I love cooking for Justin and everything from scratch. Like, I have so much joy in it. I'm growing all my food now. So it just feels like really just awesome. I plan on getting a milk cow next spring because, of course, so we have horses and chickens and ducks and all those things, but I'm planning to get a milk cow in milk goats coming soon to make my own cheese, butter, milk, all those things. So that's coming soon. I just, of course, couldn't have time this year. But salt, fat, acid, heat. This is a really popular one. I'm wondering if you guys heard of it. It's really, really cool. Like, it shows you down to the dynamics of cooking, like skills that you should have. And then it has like these cool charts that you take out. You know, they're just really cool. So I really like this book. I like reading cookbooks. When I was practically homeless in the south side of Chicago, I didn't have a TV back then, and I would just read cookbooks. That's how I learned how to cook. That's what I had. I liked to read cookbooks. I wasn't into reading back then either. I was really, really young, 17 years old, 17, 18. I just read cookbooks, so I like reading them. When I can't go to sleep, I read recipes at night, so that's just something that I do. These are a few for you to ponder on, maybe buy, maybe dabble into, and look forward to me doing separate videos on some of them, because of course I want to. And I can't wait to do that, but I hope that you guys enjoyed this updated book list, and you can find the books on my website. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.